Pilot, doctor, lawyer, millionaire. All of these things you at the same time dots for 6 years. He was also none of them. Frank Abagnale Jr. was a 16-year-old boy who convinced the entire world he was someone else. He was a pilot, a doctor, a lawyer. He was 21 years old. None of it was real. Welcome back to Detective Haroon. Today's case is different. Nobody died. Nobody was hurt. But the man in this story did something more impressive than almost any criminal I've ever covered. He looked people in the eye, smiled, and made them believe whatever he wanted them to believe. For 6 years, across 26 countries, he was never caught. Until one day, a French flight attendant recognized him from a wanted poster in a magazine. This is 100% real. Let's go. Bronxville, New York, 1948. Frank William Abagnale Jr. was born into a normal middle-class family. His father ran a stationery store. His mother was French. He had 3 brothers. Life was good. Until it wasn't. When Frank was 12, his parents' marriage started falling apart. When he was 16, they divorced. The judge asked Frank, "Who do you want to live with? Your mother or your father?" Frank stood up, looked at the judge, and walked out of the courtroom without answering. He never went back home. He was 16 years old, alone in New York City with a checkbook and the most dangerous gift in the world, the ability to make anyone believe anything. It started small. Frank opened a checking account at a local bank, deposited a small amount, and got a checkbook. Then he noticed something. When he wrote a check, nobody really looked at it carefully. They just processed it. So he started writing checks for more than he had, then more, and much more. But the banks eventually caught on, and his account was closed. Frank needed a new plan. He was walking through JFK Airport one day when he saw them. Pan American Airways pilots. Everyone stared at them. Everyone moved out of their way. Flight attendants smiled at them. Hotel staff rushed to help them. Nobody questioned them. Nobody asked for ID. They just trusted them. Frank had a thought. What if I was one of them? Frank called Pan American Airways and told them he was a new pilot and that his uniform had been lost during a move. He asked where he could get a replacement. They gave him the name of the supplier. He called the supplier and said he was from Pan Am HR and needed a pilot uniform for a new employee. They asked for an employee number. Frank paused, then said confidently, "Let me call you back with that." He called Pan Am again, this time pretending to be from the uniform supplier, asking how their employee numbers were formatted. They told him. He called the supplier back, gave them the number, and picked up his uniform the next day. He looked perfect. Then he forged Pan Am ID cards using a toy badge kit and a Pan Am logo cut out from a magazine. He called himself First Officer Frank Williams, and for the next 2 years, he flew over 2 million miles on Pan American Airways for free. How? Pilots could fly on any airline for free as a professional courtesy, called deadheading. All he had to do was show up, look like a pilot, and ask. Hotels gave him rooms at pilot rates. Restaurants gave him discounts. Women wanted to date him. Men wanted to be his friend. He was 17 years old, but flying for free wasn't enough. Frank needed cash, so he developed a system. He would walk into a bank in full pilot uniform and tell the teller, "I'm flying out in 2 hours. I left my bag on the plane by mistake. Can you cash this check for me quickly?" Nobody questioned a pilot. Nobody questioned a man in uniform. He cashed checks in cities across America, then across Europe, then across the world. The checks were fake. But by the time banks discovered that, Frank was already in another country. In 26 countries, he cashed over $2.5 million in fraudulent checks. And the FBI was getting frustrated. They knew someone was doing this. They had descriptions. They had partial names. But the man kept changing, kept moving, kept becoming someone new. In 1966, Frank decided to retire from flying. Too many close calls. The FBI was getting closer. He needed a new identity, a new profession, a new life. He was sitting in a hotel in Georgia when he met a doctor. And they got to talking, and Frank casually mentioned that he was a doctor too, just taking a break from medicine. The doctor was thrilled. A fellow physician. He told Frank about a job opening at a nearby hospital. They needed a resident supervisor. Frank smiled and said he might be interested. He forged a medical degree from Columbia University, ordered from a diploma mill for $50. He became Dr. Frank Connors, pediatric resident supervisor at a hospital in Georgia, for 11 months. He supervised real doctors, real nurses, real patients. His secret was simple. He never actually performed any medical work himself. He delegated everything to real doctors and learned as much as he could, as fast as he could. Until one day, a young doctor asked him a question he couldn't answer. He smiled, said he needed to check something, walked to his office, and never came back. Louisiana, 1967. Frank needed another identity. He decided to become a lawyer. He ordered a fake Harvard law degree, changed his name to Robert Conrad, and applied for a position at the Louisiana Attorney General's office. He was accepted. There was just one problem. To practice law in Louisiana, he needed to pass the bar exam. Frank studied for weeks. He failed the first time, studied more, failed again, studied even more. Third time, he passed. He was now a licensed attorney in the state of Louisiana with a fake degree and a real license. He practiced law for almost a year. Then a real Harvard graduate started asking questions he couldn't answer. Frank smiled, said he had an appointment, and was never seen in Louisiana again. By 1969, Frank was 21 years old. He had been running for 6 years across 26 countries under at least 8 different identities. The FBI had a file on him. Interpol had a file on him. 12 countries wanted him. But nobody could find him because Frank had a rule. Never stay in one place too long. Never use the same name twice. Never look like you're running. He was in France, working as an Air France pilot. Another fake uniform, another fake ID. He had a girlfriend, a French woman named Monique. She had no idea who he really was. One afternoon, Monique was reading a magazine. A French magazine about an American con artist wanted by the FBI. There was a photo. She looked at it, then looked at Frank, then looked at it again, and called the police. French police arrested Frank Abagnale Jr. at a supermarket in Montpellier, France, June 1969. He was 21 years old. France imprisoned him first. 6 months in a French prison. The conditions were terrible. Then Sweden took him. 6 months in a Swedish prison. Then the United States brought him home. He was sentenced to 12 years in a federal prison in Georgia, the same state where he had once been a doctor. He served 5 years. And then something unexpected happened. The FBI came to see him. They had a proposal. We need someone who thinks like a con artist to help us catch con artists. Work with us, and we'll let you out early. Frank thought about it and said yes. He spent the next decades working with the FBI, teaching banks and corporations how to protect themselves from fraud. The man who once forged millions became one of the world's leading experts in preventing forgery. He wrote a book, Catch Me If You Can. Steven Spielberg turned it into a film with Leonardo DiCaprio as Frank and Tom Hanks as the FBI agent. Frank Abagnale Jr. is now in his 70s. He lives quietly in the United States. He has been married since 1976. He has 3 sons. All of them became FBI agents. The greatest con artist in history raised 3 sons who dedicated their lives to the law. There is still debate about his story. Some say parts are exaggerated, maybe even invented. But what is certain is this: the FBI worked with him. Banks paid him. Hollywood told his story. And somewhere out there, a 16-year-old version of Frank Abagnale is still looking at the world, not for what it is, but for what it could be convinced to be. Subscribe to Detective Haroon. New case every week.